Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great episode of My EdTech Life. Thank you so much for joining us on this wonderful day, and wherever it is that you're joining us from around the world. Thank you, as always, for all of your support. We appreciate all the likes, the shares, the follows, and thank you so much for interacting with our content. As you know, we do what we do for you to bring you some amazing conversations and amazing guests. And as always, guys, there's no difference. Like today, we're having amazing guests, and we always try and bring you some amazing perspectives, stories, and viewpoints. And today, I'm really excited to welcome to the show Robby Cobbs, who is here today joining us. And he's going to talk about a nonprofit called Tech My School and just the wonderful mission that they have. And so, Robby, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great. Thank you so much for having me. Pleasure to be on your show. I've been a fan for a long time and yeah, a bit surreal being on the show. So I'm ready to get going.
Awesome, Robby. Well, thank you so much. Like I said, it's great to have you on as a guest, and it was great to just connect with you and then learn a little bit more about what you're doing and this mission that you have through Tech My School. But before we get into that conversation, Robby, if you can share with us a little bit of your backstory. So we would love for you to just give us a little introduction and tell us what your context is in the world of education.
Yeah, like all the listeners and followers, I'm an educator at heart. I've always been an educator. Started in 2000 in Hawaii, working at some inner city schools there. Then went back to California. I'm from San Diego originally, and started working inner city there for about 5 years. After that, I went overseas and started working at the American International School Systems. And I was an elementary school teacher to start, kindergarten, second, third, fourth, and then fell in love with technology. Really, in my own core values, I love to learn and I love to serve and help others. And with technology, it just fills both of those buckets because you're always having to learn all the time. And then you always need to teach people how to use the tech. So kind of shifted in towards that as a teacher, became the techie teacher and went back to Silicon Valley, got my master's in ed tech at San Francisco State. And I was working at Chung International School there right by Google campus. Was a phenomenal place to just, expand as an educator, really to delve into the world of ed tech, being kind of at the epicenter right there, and spent 3 great years there. And then went from a fourth grade teacher slash, tech integrator on campus. It was a small school, so I was basically the tech guy, um, to the American International School of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. And I was the tech director there for 4 years. And then from Jeddah, went to the American School of Lagos in Nigeria and was a tech director there as well for a couple of years during those COVID years. When I was in Jeddah, that is a place that's, I'm not sure exactly sure the exact term for it, but essentially it's a place where anything can happen and you have to be prepared and ready so that there's a readiness there. And so we had remote learning plans and remote days of school and virtual learning days before it was cool, before, COVID happened. So B. Cameron, who's kind of a legend, implemented that with all of the different schools in the NISA region. And yeah, so I became kind of a virtual or remote learning specialist, went to Nigeria to, kind of prepare the school for that. But we were thinking more like Ebola or maybe like a political uprising or something like that could interrupt school. And so developed the remote learning plan before COVID, and we're training teachers prior to COVID. And then when COVID happened, we just, we didn't even have to flip a switch. We are just, continued on what we were doing. We just implemented the plan, and it was a fairly smooth transition. We had a great leadership team there that helped really smooth things out. And in that process, I burned myself and many teachers out because we were so good at, replicating the physical classroom into the virtual one. And I moved to Puerto Rico with my family to take a 1 year sabbatical to write my book on ed tech and just kind of take a breather, I guess you could say. And I'll leave the story there for the next question.
Wow, that is fantastic, Robbie. Just the level of experience that you have. And most importantly, too, I'm just really so interested in the different viewpoints and perspectives that you were able to learn along the way as educators. Not many of us have that opportunity that you had to really go overseas, also and then, come back here, and then the work that you're doing in Puerto Rico now. And so I am just like in awe of that. And but my question before we get into really the heart of the matter too is, was education something that you knew you wanted to do, or was it something that you kind of fell into and then just fell in love with it and just really just went all in on it?
Yeah, so, as a child, I was the poorest kid in school. I was Kenny from South Park. I went to a public elementary school in El Cajon, California, a school called Crest Elementary, and it was a great school, really nice little town, little mountain town, kinda like South Park again, but, yeah, I was the poor kid. School was kinda my sanctuary. That's where food was, electricity was, adults who cared about me, all those things that many kids go through, if they have kind of a rough upbringing. Yeah, so school is always a sanctuary. I always felt very comfortable in school. I was good at school. I liked school. But I wasn't planning on being a teacher per se. I went to Hawaii my freshman year of college because I wanted to, be in Hawaii. I thought it'd be a great place. I was actually trying to follow Dan Patrick. I was with the sports editor in high school and loved writing, loved sports. I still do. Um, and while I was there, I got a job at a surf shop. It was like the coolest job you can get in Hawaii while going to university there. But I needed a little bit more money. Went back to university. I said, "Hey guys, can I, get a job at the library, working at the library, doing my homework, getting paid to do my homework?" And they were like, "Well, that job's taken, but we have an opportunity for you to work in an elementary school through the America Reads program in the inner city schools in Hawaii. Would you be interested?" And I thought about it and I was like, well, I really wasn't thinking of being a teacher, but I want to be a great dad one day and know little league and all that kind of stuff. So I'll mess around with some kids. And I just, once I got into that classroom, everything came rushing back from those elementary year experiences, from all those teachers and all those positive memories I had at school. So it was just such a comfortable place for me, and a place where, I'm working with kids who really need the help and I'm serving them, and it just felt so great. And that freshman year of university, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I changed my major, and from that point forward, I was just working in schools, like always interning, always working in schools all throughout college and, immediately after that.
Okay, so I gotta ask though, what was the major that you were intending to follow, and then of course now you moved to education?
So I got a journalism major because I thought I was gonna be a sports writer. But again, it was my freshman year, first semester. And then within that first, month or two, I went to a school. And then when I transferred, I figured I would teach at the elementary school that raised me back in El Cajon. And so transferred to San Diego State, and I kind of asked the counselor, like, so what's the teacher major? What is the major? I don't know what the major is to be an elementary school teacher. Is it called elementary school teaching or what? And they said, no, it's called liberal studies. You get a liberal studies degree. It's, multiple subjects in every subject. So you're kind of knowledgeable in all things, a mile wide and a foot deep or whatever. And so that was the major I switched to, and took all the classes. And for me, I really liked it, simply because I was one of the few guys in the class. So there'd be like 200 women and me. So it was great. And yeah, it was a great experience. San Diego State is a phenomenal school. It's the top education school in the state of California for teachers. And they, huge student body. I think it's like, 30, 40,000 students. Had some wonderful professors. My aunt was also a professor at San Diego State, Stanford, University of Texas A&M. So she was at San Diego State when I was there. So it was great to be on campus when she was there. She was the head of the history department. And yeah, I just had such a phenomenal time at San Diego State. And I'm a proud alumni, a proud Aztec, and I always, follow the program. And I had future siblings who went to San Diego State, and I, kind of encouraged them. My brother, he's a teacher that came through San Diego State. He now coaches high school football in El Cajon at Granite Hills High School, where we all went. All of the Cobbs family went to Granite Hills High School, and he's kind of a local legend there. He won a state football championship and all that stuff. So yeah, just a proud Aztec. And you know, it was really early in my career. It wasn't one of those situations where I had like, got a degree in history because I love history and then fell into teaching. It was like I interned freshman year, first semester, fell in love with it, and went, dove into the deep end, straight into it. I knew this is what I wanted to do.
That's fantastic, and So right now, what I'm picking up though too is very similar to me growing up in a situation like that. Very poor. Parents just my dad working out in the citrus farm, my mom just kind of doing odd jobs and everything. But I never thought I would go into teaching. And as a matter of fact, I always said I will never go into teaching. But I went in just because of that dream of, hey, I need to take care of my parents, and being an only child pressure's on. And I know many people have heard the story here because I've said it a couple times. But going into college, I was like, oh, I'm going to go do business, business degree,
Mm,
make some money, take care of my parents and so on. And then, fork in the road moment. And then I got into teaching, and I just absolutely fell in love with it. But what I'm picking up, and listening to your story, I mean, we'll definitely dive into the conversation. But I think this really is also what I feel I'm picking up from you too in the conversation, and your passion of what you're doing through techmyschool.org is that being where you were, how you were brought up, and how, you went to school, like you mentioned, like, hey, adults that care about me, food, and so on. And then going back and maybe kind of seeing yourself a little bit in some of the students just really ignited that passion for you too as well. So I'm sure, I just want to ask, did that have a tremendous role in what it is that you're doing now, and especially, all the traveling and so on? Was that kind of like your mission to say, hey, I want to give everybody, or as many children or students as possible, the opportunities that I never had, or maybe now the opportunities that I have, so just to be that catalyst for them?
The way we learn is changing. Are you ready to transform education? Welcome to Yellow Dig, where learning isn't just another assignment, it's a conversation, a movement, a game changer. With Yellow Dig, students engage naturally, sharing ideas, exploring concepts, and driving conversations that matter. No forced post, no busy work, just real learning. Educators, you'll see the difference. Higher engagement, deeper understanding, and a thriving community of learners who want to participate. From higher ed to workforce training, Yellow Dig fuels curiosity, collaboration, and connection inside and outside of the classroom. The future of learning is here. Are you in? Yellow Dig, connecting minds and igniting possibilities.
yeah, no, thank you for asking the question. And I wanted to quickly mention before getting into it, my family were also, they were farmers. We were Okies, actually. The Cobbs family has been in America since the 1620s, so a very long time. Started out as tobacco farmers from England, and they stayed in agricultural all the way, from Virginia to Missouri down to Texas and then Oklahoma. And then in the 20s, the Dust Bowl happened, and we were the grapes of wrath. We came to California, and we were migrant farmers, picking fruit and all those kinds of things. And then my grandfather, built an empire through construction. So all the men in my family transitioned from agriculture to construction. And the message to me was always, don't do this. don't don't be a labored worker. You need to work with your brain. And so I always envisioned myself wearing a tie. I knew I wanted to wear a tie. And as a teacher, I always did wear a tie. So very, very similar in that sense. But yeah, so I do have a unique lens in the sense that I've traveled to 60 countries. So I've been able to see a lot of the world, Africa, Middle East. I've lived these places, East Asia, Europe, Latin America, the US, obviously. So I've seen a bunch of countries. And, you know, when I was in Africa, right before we came to Puerto Rico, we were at the American National School of Lagos. It's a wealthy school. It's kind of where all the elites go. The generals, the diplomat kids, the doctors, the business people. They put their kids in these elite schools because it's a pipeline into the U.S. really. And but we would serve local schools in the community. We had a program where we would bring in local teachers and we would teach them about ed tech or just basic teaching pedagogy to help the community. We had a program we were donating computers and stuff to local schools nearby. Part of our purchase program cycle, and then also just on a personal level. I would take my children and we go to orphanages and we donate like toys and stuff like that to orphanages in Africa. And whenever I was in those countries, whether it was, Nigeria or India, Kazakhstan, all these different countries that were, let's say, less fortunate, um, we would do what we could to help them by giving things to them, computers and services and things like that. But ultimately, it was their country, and we are a guest in that country, and I'd lived as a guest in the country for, a majority of my career, living as a guest in other countries, learning these cultures and traveling and those type of things. But when I came to Puerto Rico, I didn't know a lot about the history of Puerto Rico. I knew it was beautiful, um, and it was America, kind of. But yeah, we just kind of came here with open eyes and open ears and open hearts, and kind of took things as they came. And after my experience in Hawaii, working in the inner city schools, I figured Puerto Rican education wouldn't be as strong as, let's say, New York or maybe even Florida, but it would be something similar. Like when you're in a school in Hawaii versus a school in California, the schools in California typically are stronger. They're better performing, better resourced, or those kinds of things, but they're not that much different. There's a drop off a little bit, but it's not, of consequence, let's just say. But coming to Puerto Rico, I was absolutely shocked because I put my boys, first we were looking for schools to put them into, and then we eventually, bought a house and put our boys in a local school. And we were just absolutely shocked at the state of education from the schools we visited and the ones we chose, simply because of that stark difference in quality from a U.S. mainland school versus the U.S. schools in Puerto Rico. So for those who don't know the history of Puerto Rico, Puerto Rico became part of America through somewhat controversial ways, through conquest, in the late 1800s. And right before World War I, every Puerto Rican became a U.S. citizen. So everyone, has the blue passport. They've been in America since then. There's been some controversial laws that have been kind of strings attached, I guess you can say, the Jones Act and those kinds of things. But ultimately, everyone here is an American. You see the United States Postal Service, National Park Services. You've got U.S. dollar, Walmart, Wendy's, the whole thing. Spain was here for, many, many years, 400 years, 500 years. So we just kind of took it over after the Spanish-American War from them. But so they predominantly speak Spanish here, like most of the Latin world. But they're American, so they can come and work and live in Florida or Oklahoma or, Nebraska tomorrow if they want. They just buy a flight, get on a Spirit Airlines flight or United Airlines or whatever, go there, apply for a job, live and work the same way anyone else goes to any other states. And you really have the same voting power pretty much, except for the presidency. So you can vote all the way up into the primary. But after that, there's no vote for president, which is kind of part of that original deal that they made. So anyways, with that said, everyone here is an American. And my lens is simply, I'm new to this island. They're American. I'm American. They have a U.S. passport. I have a U.S. passport. And if I go to any of these 60 countries I've been to, that is how you are judged. You're judged by your passport, right? If I'm in Germany, it doesn't matter which town or province I'm in. If you have the German passport, you're German, right? And you'd see a similar level of education. You'd see a lot similar service of everything. And so coming here was shocking because there is a stark difference. And when I put my boys in the school, it wasn't that. And when I was in Africa, I was like, this is their country, I'll give them computers, but it's their place, Here in Puerto Rico, I immediately felt like this is my country. This is my community. I need to do something to help these kids, because I was talking with students who were 16, 17 years old. They were just graduating or getting ready to graduate high school. They barely spoke English. They had never used a computer before. And if you look statistically where Puerto Rico is at, if you look at their PISA scores, the last time they took it, I mean, Puerto Rico is the outlier of outliers when it comes to testing. They score statistically worse than Mexico. And me being from San Diego, I was very sensitive to that because I grew up right on the border. And I remember going into Mexico as a young person thinking, wow, I'm so fortunate to be born in America instead of being born in Mexico because of that disparity of wealth and opportunity. And so for these American kids to perform worse than Mexico, no offense to Mexico, just that level of, you know, 3, 4, 5 grade levels below the US national average was really shocking for me. And it was really just a call to action because as I was mentioning before, I grew up poor, but I always had public school. And if you go to an American public school, I worked inner city schools for many years. I've never saw a kid who worked their butt off who didn't achieve. Like if you worked really hard and just ignored the noise, the family, traumatic things happening to you, friends who are, in trouble and all that things. If you can just block that out and just focus on study, pay attention to your teacher who cares about you and just work hard, all of those kids graduate and become successful. I really believe that. And so they have that rope to pull themselves out of any sort of situation. And that's just the beautiful thing about America is the fact that no matter where you come from, what you look like, what you sound like, your accent, it doesn't matter. If you work hard, you play by the rules, you can get ahead. And I'm not saying everyone starts at the same place, but it's just that there is a system. There is a rope system where you can pull yourself out to have a good life. And I feel here in Puerto Rico, that rope is gone or doesn't exist or is severely smaller than other ropes that you'd see, elsewhere. So um, I wanted to create a rope for my fellow citizens, for my fellow Americans, for these Puerto Rican kids who didn't have one, because the state of these schools, the first school I go into, computers are not really adherent to teachers. Kids don't have. It's mostly just it looks similar to Africa. Honestly, it was you go into a concrete slab where there's a chalkboard, some old desk, and a fan, and that's it. That's all there is. And a teacher teaching in a way the best they can, but in a very traditional manner. Copy off the board, those kinds of things, and and I see it as this tech person that I know I can come in and help support the school. And so that's what I did. I started going into schools and serving.
Wow, Robby, like that is amazing and very commendable. Like just listening to your heart and your passion, and it's no wonder Tech My School is what it's doing, what you're talking about right now, and just bringing professional development, bringing just resources to teachers because there is a need there, and most importantly, like you mentioned, that rope, giving them a rope, and I love that. So Robby, now that we're going to talk a little bit more about what the work, well, you've described really the way the situation is,
Why? Yeah.
but now your work through Tech
Mhm.
My School, how did that come about? And one thing that I'm loving though is like on your mission statement and your core values. And of course, in the background, we see the parrot there. And so can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about number one, how Tech My School, what the mission and vision is, and then just kind of break down, your core values so our audience members can know, the work that you're doing, and
Mhm.
also how might they be able to also help in maybe extending a rope and extending that hand for the education system. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so it started with the one school that we were serving, and I went from new parent to training all staff the first month. And so, for any parent who has kids, imagine walking into a new school and becoming the trainer for all teachers that first month, and not a necessarily traditional or normal thing to do, but I think that speaks a bit to the state of where education is here, and also just the fortunate lifestyle I've had to just learn so much in ed tech. Prior to my career, I had been a tech director and presented at a number of great conferences and kind of been a leader in that sense. So there was definite a big need here. So we just started out helping one school, and I had this money for a boat coming to Puerto Rico. I wanted to write the book on ed tech, and then buy this boat, and I ended up not buying the boat, and Tech My School became my boat. I used my boat money to get computers, get software, and just basically equip tech this school up to a place where it could be a little bit more on the 21st century side of things. So, for example, they didn't have an LMS, a learning management system. They didn't have a student information system. They didn't have emails for the teachers. Everyone was using their personal email, if they even had an email. There was no library, no public library, no school libraries. There was a few books in the classroom, but not a lot. And so we just having that tech director lens, I just kind of came in and just did a needs assessment, orally and visually by talking with the teachers and the director and just looking through the school, and immediately got to work, helping the school modernize and just using that money to um, give these professional trainings to the teachers. And I had spent the past 9 years giving professional development to staff, so I felt really comfortable doing so. And it became an official nonprofit probably a couple months into it. I had never worked with, as a nonprofit. I never thought I would start a nonprofit or anything like that. It was just the sense that, like, as I was helping the school, teachers in a church were talking to another set of teachers and said, "Hey, can you help our school as well? There's this, they call the gringos. There's this gringo here. He's helping us with the computers and trainings. Can you help us?" And so we did. We gladly took another school on, and so we started to expand very quickly. And so I started the nonprofit. Um, the name Tech My School came from just writing a bunch of names down, asking my friends and colleagues, like, what name should it go with? And when we go into a school, we do a needs assessment, and then based off that needs assessment, we then create a tech plan and then fulfill that tech plan in partnership with the school. We call this plan the ITP, or Individualized Tech Plan, kind of like a school has an IEP. Every student is different. ITP, every school is different. And from this tech plan, we go in and we do a complete audit. Now, our lens that we had is one that is from some of the world's best schools. So it was a very comprehensive process that we went through to build these tech plans, even though the school had relatively nothing. The documentation and the artifacts that we created in the process of doing these tech plans were very comprehensive. Because in my mind, I figured, if I'm going to, start with this role and help these schools here in Puerto Rico, why not start to, branch out eventually one day and help other schools? And so it had to be world-class, not just a Puerto Rican only type of system. So that's how it started. Started with building the tech plans and serving the schools, trainings, all those kinds of things, donating tech. As a former tech director, I know, and anyone listening who's a tech person, what do you do with your old tech in your school? The answer is you put it into a closet, because you buy 25% of inventory every year. From that 25%, it's sitting there. You put it in the closet in case something breaks. Nothing ever does. And then after a few years, the closet becomes full, and you end up calling a recycling company to come take it all away, and you pay them money. So I got on the phone and started calling universities, schools, just organizations, companies, meeting people, talking to them, saying, "Hey, if you have old tech, used tech, please give it to us, because we'll repurpose it and put it into schools." One of the things that we noticed was, when we were going into public schools, the public school district here gave teachers computers once COVID happened. They gave everyone kind of computers, but they didn't give them a lot of training. And so after COVID was over, they kind of just took those old computers and stuck them in a closet and went back to their old ways of teaching. And as an ed tech leader, when it comes to tech professional development, it's not a one-time thing. It's got to be continual. It's got to be ongoing. Even the tech teachers need support and learning, and because things are evolving so quickly. So that model of just training teachers all the time and ensuring the technology we do get from schools that is repurposed is going to be not only just given to a school. We're not just going to give them a fish. We're going to teach them how to fish. We're going to be using the tech with them all the time, every month, going in their classrooms, observing the teachers, like really becoming that tech department that they don't have, and just ensuring we get maximum value of the tech that's donated. So over the past 4 years, we've been able to donate over 1,000 computers to schools. And it's all thanks to the great donors and partners that we've met along the way who helped us. We're predominantly funded through donations. So we've now been going for this is our 4th school year, and we've been able to serve 30 schools. So we started with 1, and then 2, and then 4, and then 14, and 30. And so when I say serve, what we do is we, again, go in, we do this ITA, the analysis, we do the ITP, the plan, and then we just deploy it. So we're in schools every single month giving all staff professional training on ed tech and best pedagogy. We are following those trainings up by going into classrooms and observing teachers and giving them, instructional coaching type notes and those kinds of things. We're doing parent trainings. We're doing tons and tons of work with these schools. And, we've just been really fortunate to have just a great team. We have a team that spans from, the Middle East, Africa. In Texas, we have a guy working with us. And then also here in Puerto Rico, we have a lot of local teachers as well. So, just a phenomenal experience, and just we're so happy to be a part of this and to be serving teachers and kids in schools. You asked about the parrot. The parrot is the Puerto Rican green parrot. Puerto Rico is known for this indigenous bird, and where the city I live in Rio Grande, that's on the flag. So part of that branding, I was like, oh, I want it to be something cool, something techie. I wear polos just in my life. I always wore like Ralph Lauren polos or Nautica or whatever. And so I wanted to make it a logo to where it'd be cool to wear. Like I could just wear it and, whether I was wearing it as the CEO of the company or just wearing it because I just like the logo. And so, yeah, it's kind of like this techie green parrot. And if you go on our website, techmyschool.org, you look at our core values, it's the parrot. So obviously you have a Puerto Rican focus. We're trying to bring up the education in Puerto Rico, which is America's lowest performing, most underserved, underprivileged. Like nothing, again, from anything I've seen, nothing compares to Puerto Rican education in terms of the amount of need, the amount of, statistically where they score, the campus, when you walk through the school, the programs or lack thereof. A lot of times in inner city schools, the schools will be funded. There'll be grass fields. There'll be sports programs. There'll be art programs. There'll be teachers who are getting, a decent salary comparative to, like, let's say a gas station worker. The problem is really like within that community, there's a lot of like poverty and crime, and maybe like culturally, they don't really value education as much per se. I'm again painting with a very broad stroke here, but in Puerto Rico, it's like you have kids who have great families, who value education, who want to improve their life, but it's the system of the schools that are kind of failing them. And so there isn't that rope for them to pull themselves out of. And that's not to disparage any of the hard work that the teachers are doing here in Puerto Rico. It's just the reality of comparing, a school in New Jersey versus a school in Puerto Rico. And so that's why you see a huge outflux of Puerto Ricans who leave, because they're just like, the schools aren't the same quality as they are in the States. I'm an American. I'm just going to go to Florida or New York or wherever. And the kids end up growing up stateside rather than on the island. And because these parents it's either go to a public school that's not going to serve them to a degree they deserve as an American, or, leave the island and just have that kind of feeling of something left behind. And any Puerto Rican listening to this will know what I'm talking about. Because again, before coming here, I really didn't know that difference.
Wow, Robby. Well, let's continue with that, because not only the work that you're doing is phenomenal, and like you said, you have a great team, but I know also that you will be holding a conference also that is coming up. So I definitely want to make sure that we amplify the work that you're doing, that it's not just, you and your team that are doing everything, there. I mean, you're bringing some amazing knowledge and you're helping the educators out, but you're also looking beyond, Puerto Rico, and looking into bringing in people that are going to provide professional development, different perspectives, and so on. So tell us a little bit about the, Tech My School conference that'll be coming up next month.
Yeah. So kind of in that same spirit of, thinking of the teachers in Puerto Rico, there's 750 public schools, 750 private schools. And, a lot of teachers, let's say half, are working in these private schools where they're getting paid $1,500, $2,000 a month. Milk is still $7-8 a gallon here. Due to the Jones Act and just it being America and a beautiful island that people want to visit. So because of that, teachers are not living in the same kind of, demographic financially as, teachers do in the stateside. And so they are scraping by literally to teach kids. And, I was coming from this place prior to coming to Puerto Rico, where I was, again, very fortunate, but working at some of the best schools in the world, these American diplomat schools that had phenomenal budgets. My tech budget was like $1 million just for my school. It had like 700 kids or something like that. And so, yeah, I would go to all the conferences. I would travel the world. I would do all these great things. And I just felt like every teacher deserves to go to, a world-class, conference where you can network, where you can learn, where you can become inspired, and you can come back to your school and just kind of spread that, that joy, that excitement, and just breathe life into your school. And so that was something that I really enjoyed, both as an attendee and also as a speaker. I'd spoken at, lots of different countries and conferences around the world. So um, I just felt like the teachers deserve that here. So Tech My School serves these local poor schools in Puerto Rico for free. And, we're providing these tech, we're providing the services, we're providing the, all these things. But another part of the profession is getting that networking ability and going to these conferences. So I was like, they deserve that too. And I don't want to just put on some like low budget thing. I wanted it to be the best. I want to put together a 5-star world-class conference for these teachers. That's forward thinking and ed tech conference. And so it's exactly what we did. And we host it every year at the Wyndham Rio Mar in Rio Grande. It's a beautiful, 5-star resort right on the water. The conference center is great. The people who work there are awesome, fantastic. There's 2 golf courses. El Yunque, it's right on the base of El Yunque, America's largest rainforest. I think it's the only rainforest. So beautiful place in this world. And yeah, so for the teachers, we pay for their tickets. Well, the first 200. So for the first 200 teachers that sign up, we pay for their tickets. We pay for their food and the attendance and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously we're flying in speakers from across the states, internationally, and locally as well. So we want to get a blend of just both the best talent on island and really the best talent from the states who can make it. And so it's a bilingual conference, and it's the biggest ed tech conference in the Caribbean. The way we structure it is any presenter who's presenting in English will have Spanish slides, so the attendees can follow along, or vice versa. When we do breakout sessions, whether you want to do Brain Pop in Spanish or CurryPod in English, you get to choose which, breakout session you want to go to and which language you prefer, but all the slides are available to you, so you can kind of follow along and keep track. And then our keynotes will do the same thing. So if they're presenting in Spanish, the slides will be in English. We also have, we use Time Kettle's X1 to do the translation, the live translation as you're speaking, so you can see both languages. So yeah, it's great. We had great speakers last year, 27 speakers last year. We're going to have right around 27, 30 speakers this year. And it's a phenomenal event, and we're so excited to have it. For teachers who are not under the Tech My School umbrella, we subsidize their tickets. So for them, it's only $150 for, a 5-star experience, all the food, the great speakers, and again, in a great spot. And then if you're off island, if you're coming in from Florida or New York or Houston or wherever, we only charge you what the hotel is charging us for food, which is $400 for, well, not like food and space, right? AV, space, all that, the internet. So we're just charging basically at cost. So it's again, a subsidized event. It's the lowest price, highest quality ed tech conference in America. I'll just say it. And then the reason it is because it's subsidized through these donations that we're able to pull, because we want to bring educators to Puerto Rico so they can really understand that this is their country too, and care about the island, meet the teachers here. And we want the teachers here in Puerto Rico to be exposed to, like you're saying, just phenomenal educators, and for them to get a world-class experience. And so that's what we're doing. And yeah, it's March 15th and 16th. This was for 2025. If you're listening to this a year in advance, just go to our website, techmyschool.org /conference to see the latest, thing. And then also, if you're a vendor, I had went to the FETC conference last month, and it was great. Lots of speakers and lots of, it was phenomenal, because when we are there, we're talking to everyone. We're talking to other vendors, because we're looking for partnerships to try to find ways to get teachers low cost, free software so we can push it into schools here, because they, can't afford it. But But at the same time, we're reaching out to teachers, trying to get them to go to the conference and just spread awareness and that whole thing. We're us serving schools in the States because we do have this world-class tech plan process product. And but it costs a lot. I mean, they nickel and dime you when you go there. You got to pay for carpet. That costs over $1,000. You want a trash can, that's going to cost you $100. You want a TV, that's 800. It's like, it's very expensive as a vendor. The space itself is, $4,000 or $5,000 or whatever it was. So it's very expensive to have these spaces. And for the vendors who are here, we want the teachers to be exposed to these, tech companies coming in. So if Magic School is there, if Fax is there, if, Seesaw is there, we love that because we want the teachers to see these softwares that we've been bringing to them and for them to meet people in these companies because it kind of brings it to life. It makes it a little more real. And because of that, again, we charge them basically what the hotel charges us. So it's for a booth, I think it's like $500. And that includes everything. You just have to bring your banner or whatever, and that you get your food and you get all that stuff too. So it's the most affordable spot for a vendor as well. And again, we don't just have poor schools. We invite every school in Puerto Rico, public schools, charter schools, the expensive private schools, because there are some very high quality private schools here on the island as well. And those teachers and directors and superintendents are going to be here as well, either speaking or attending the conference. So we're trying to make it the best ed tech conference in the Caribbean. I think it already is, but like we would love for it to be like an FETC, like an ISTE, something like that, where people in the region or on the Eastern Seaboard or even, Central or even California, they just know this is a world-class experience. We're coming out to Puerto Rico. It's beautiful. We're supporting, it's for a great cause and super affordable. And it's just really, really high quality. So those are kind of the goals that we're targeting.
That is amazing, Robby. And I mean, just being here on the show today and just for all our listeners that are going to be catching this episode, we'll definitely make sure that we link the webpage. But for any platforms, all of you that are on my network, all my friends that are listening and you're listening to this episode, please, get in contact with Robby. Like, let's help out Puerto Rico. Let's make sure that we throw that rope, that line, that help, whatever it is, because I mean, we that's what we're here for, is just to help serve our community. And when there's a community in need, that we definitely love to help. So Robby, thank you so much for being here this evening and sharing the work that you're doing. And it amazes me that this all started because you were taking a break to write a book.
Right.
And,
yeah.
And now look at what has become. That's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Absolutely. Yeah. I learned something about myself. And this is kind of true for a lot of tech guys or tech gals. I feel like, and my former superintendent, who's a board member and a close friend, he used to call me like his sports car. And so as tech, people, we have all these great ideas. We're high energy and we're in the garage of the school. And they're like, okay, we'll have you spin around. We'll have you, we'll drive you a couple times a year, but that's it. You got to sit in that garage all year and just kind of grind your gears, thinking of things, of trying to ways to make an impact. Most of the time they're taking the minivan to and from school, right? In that analogy, in that sense. And so I was always kind of pent up creating ways when I was working in these schools to do more. And by coming here and having this opportunity, there is no ceiling. And because of that, I've just been able to explode and, serve so many schools and, create so many great products. I did write the book. It's called Tech Centered Learning Driven. You can check it out on Amazon. And it's for any one of your audience members. It's intended for your audience. Those teachers who are looking to use technology to get ahead in their careers, to discover new pathways of how you can, expand your career or do more. For those new teachers who are just trying to learn, like, what's the best way to integrate technology or to, stay ahead of the curve. That's what the book kind of goes through. And it's really just a combination of 15 years of my experience as a tech leader through the lens I've had in, all these different places, California, Asia, Middle East, Africa. And interviewing, I interviewed 20 different, tech directors and tech specialists and educators who own companies in the ed tech space. So all of their kind of knowledge and wisdom is in the book as well. So hopefully it's a good read. And I look forward to writing the next book as well. My aunt's a very distinguished author. She's a New York best time seller. And there was a time period, and your listeners may have experienced this. I'm not going to say I doubted myself, but you kind of second guess, like, am I good enough to write a book? Become an author, this pedestaled person. And so I wrote the book and then went through the editing process, and it was on my computer for 2 years after I wrote it. It took me about a year to write, and then it just sat there for 2 years. I didn't click publish. I didn't try to, make it happen, kind of for self-doubt reasons, and I had to tech my school. It was blowing up, and that was my excuse. But my aunt always said, publish hurry up and publish your first book because it's just getting in the way of publishing your next. And so, because everyone has that imposter syndrome at some point. And so once I did, it was just such a sigh of relief, and I could just move forward with my life. And my aunt was right. Her name was Elizabeth Cobbs. Look her up. She's great. She's a very great educator. But tech centered, learning driven is the name of the book, and I'd love for you guys to check it out.
Excellent. And we'll definitely link it up in the show notes and everything. So guys, please check out the website, check out the work that Robby's doing, check out the book too as well. And Robby, like, I know you said you're going to get started on that second book. So are you going to write the second book there in Puerto Rico, or are you going to find another place to rest for a year? And then all of a sudden a new tech revolution is going to show up.
Yeah, no, I love Puerto Rico. We bought a house even before Tech My School started. We just bought the house, and we love it. After traveling to so many different places, we were like, where in the world do we want to live? And Puerto Rico was a place that we chose. Like, we knew we wanted to live here. So I think we might be here for a little while. And just the level of impact we've been able to make on the community, all the friends and all the schools we're serving, I couldn't turn my back on them. But I have the next book ready to go. The first book has been kind of more of a generalized book about like how to get into ed tech and kind of the purpose of, what's the difference between ed tech and tech ed. The next book is going to be far more niche for the tech director, and it's all going to be about that ITA and ITP process, what we're doing at Tech My School, and how you do it. Basically, how do you, modernize your school and ensure you're looking at all the right lenses and that kind of thing. Because starting from humble beginnings in Puerto Rico, let's just say, we've had the privilege of testing our methodology out in some really great schools in the States. One of the schools, the first school we tried it out on, that was of high power. Let's just say it wasn't the first school we worked with in the States, but there are schools in the States that pay us for our services of creating tech plans for them and working with their teams, and that helps fund our mission. Was a school called Episcopal High School in Houston. And for those who aren't in the Houston area or don't know Texas, it's one of the top schools in Texas. And yeah, we went into that school. I mean, you go to that campus, it's unbelievable, beautiful campus. They have literally everything money can buy. And so for the students who go there, very fortunate kids, great staff. And so we were, I walked in there, you wouldn't tell. I came in very confident, but because I had done the process, a number of times, and, I'd reviewed the process with great schools outside of that I knew would do well, but still, it was my first time doing it at a first class school, 5-star school. My friend Kyle will tell you, he was a director of technology and innovation there, and his thinking. And I told him, I'm like, listen, I'm not going to tell you the process. I'm not going to tell you anything about what we do. I want you to experience it as a client, and then give me your feedback. And just be honest. If we're terrible, we're terrible. We'll get better. This will help us get better when we move to the next one. And he's like, okay. And he was thinking, this little nonprofit from Puerto Rico with a guy that I've worked with in the past, like, what's it going to do? Like, I'm just doing this guy a favor almost. And we went in there, and sure enough, we blew them away. He was like, this is the best professional development we've gotten all year. We were able to help them build a really comprehensive tech plan that really looks at the 3 facets that we really focus on. And that school had all the money in the world. So they were able to solve all the problems that you could solve with the money. But when it came to professional learning and for student empowerment, that's where we were able to find some gaps and really add value to their school. And I was fortunate to be there for a couple of days and work with their tech team to help them build out their tech plan. And we've had just such a great experience doing it. And yeah, it was just a great confidence booster for us, just because we're like, we know if we can add value to Episcopal High School, we can add value to any school in the world. And we've just done that. We've helped schools in New Jersey and Texas and Oregon and Washington State. So, and we're looking to add more. So if you're a listener and your school needs a tech plan, give us a try. Give a little nonprofit from Puerto Rico a chance, and let's see what we can do for your school.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Robbie. I really appreciate it. But before we wrap up, we always love to end the show with the last 3 questions. And so hopefully,
Mhm.
Robbie, you're ready for those questions. So, question number one, as we know, every superhero has a pain point or something that weakens him. So, for example, Superman, kryptonite just kind of weakened him. So, I
Yep.
want to ask you, Robbie, in the current state of education, what would you say is your current edu kryptonite?
Um, I would say currently it would probably be uh, bureaucracy, and bureaucracy sometimes is like the overregulation of things and just the slow process of things. And sometimes it's important to go slow, and obviously it's important to dot your I's, cross your T's, the whole thing. But we have a very unique lens of being able to work with private schools, charter schools, and public schools. And I can tell you, when you work with a private school or a charter school, what's great about it is you can go in there and talk about your vision, how you can support the school. The principal or director can look at you and be like, we love it. Let's go. Let's move. And then we're going in there making phenomenal, drastic changes that are really empowering that school, that are just, we're lighting things up, and you just see immediate impact. Whereas you work with the public schools, and it's like you got to take a lot of steps to get to the decision makers. And then when you get there, it's like, okay, you can do it, but you can do like this much of what you wanted to do. And so because of that, you're less impactful because of these bureaucratic steps. And so I'm not going to say it's complete kryptonite. We're still able to, work within those boundaries, but it's definitely something that slows us down. And when you see the impact you're able to make in the schools that say yes, and you work with them and they make these changes, it's tough because you're like, oh, just say yes so we can just make these great changes and help empower your kids and teachers. So that's kind of the challenge.
All right. Question number two, Robbie, is if you could have a billboard with anything on it, what would it be and why?
If I could have a billboard that could say anything on it, and let's just stay on topic, we're sticking with the education realm here. Um, it would probably say something along the lines of, Puerto Rico is America too. Let's build some ropes together. And it would have some sort of rope and kids getting pulled up, to be at the same level as, New York or Massachusetts or the Texas or California or any of the great states on the mainland.
Love it. That's a great message, Robbie. And I think that's been, kind of that underlying message throughout everything that you've shared is just really helping students, helping teachers, just giving them that opportunity for success. So that is definitely a great sign. And the last question, Robbie, is if you can trade places with one person for a single day, who would that person be and why?
That's a great question. Do we have to stick to education? Or
No,
can we
you
go
don't have
anywhere?
to stick to education. It could be anybody.
Um, I mean, there's so many great people you can choose. It would probably be, I'm going to say Elon Musk. And the reason I'm going to say Elon Musk is because, in my opinion, he is one of the most, for good, bad, the other, whatever your opinion is on the guy, I think he's one of the most impactful humans on the planet in terms of the companies he's been able to build, the way he runs his businesses, and just the way he communicates and the way his brain works. So this is someone who, he's the number one Diablo 3 player in the world or whatever in America. He's building spaceships that can be caught by rockets. They can be, be reused and caught. He's got Tesla and he's rejuvenating that. He's got Neuralink. He's got the that tunnel business,
Silent.
Boring Company. He's doing Doge now, and I'm not saying that I agree with everything he's doing, but it's more so that just this is someone's brain that is so high powered, or just, it's not to give him credit for everything, but I just think he's such an interesting human. And I think he's pushing humanity forward in his own way. And I just think it would be interesting to see whether I'm spending a day with him, to like, how do you do it? How do you manage all these companies and tweet 1,000 times a day, and, know so much about the brain and know so much about digging and engineering and all those kinds of things. Or if I was inside of his brain and just seeing how fast is that computer running, right? So yeah, someone I think that would be very interesting to spend one day with. I'm not saying a whole
Perfect.
lifetime, but just definitely one day. It'd be interesting to shadow him to see how he's able to accomplish so much in one day.
Excellent. Great answer, Robbie. Well, Robbie, thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. Just definitely bucket filling, just because just hearing your story and what you've been able to do based on what you saw, and then bringing in the experience that you've had, international experience, local experience, and bringing all that to the people of Puerto Rico and the work that you're doing through Tech My School. I definitely applaud you. It's an honor to have you here, and I definitely look forward to this conference that'll be coming up next month. So appreciate the work that you're doing. And for all our audience members, make sure that you connect with Robby, connect with techmyschool.org. All of the information will be in the show notes as well. And guys, also please make sure you jump over to our website where you can go ahead and check out this amazing episode and the other 311 episodes, where I promise you that you will find a little something that you can already sprinkle to what you are already doing great. So thank you as always for all of your support. If you haven't followed us on YouTube, please make sure you head over to YouTube. We only need, I think it's 33 subscribers now to hit 1,000. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, share all our episodes. I
We're
promise
gonna
you,
get
like I
that.
said, we definitely want to get to 1,000. And as always, my friends, don't forget, until next time, stay techie.